Hey, everybody, we're going to get started momentarily. Thank you so much for joining. All right, all right, all right. Thank you so much for joining and welcome to the Transportation and Logistics podcast powered by Atlanta Dispatch and Humblebee Enterprises. I am very, very excited about our guest tonight, the very, very special Tawana Randall of Gold Star Logistics Group. But before we begin, I just wanted to go ahead and give a shout out to everybody who embodies the mantra of collaboration over competition. A lot of times people felt as though they had to be very tight fisted with opportunities and knowledge, thinking that if somebody else got the information, they get a leg up. But, I want to say everything that I've learned in this industry has come by way of collaboration. And it's not surprising that tonight's guest, I've learned so much from her. She and I are essentially in the same field. We both own dispatch companies, but that mindset, I personally learned so much game from her. And Tawana, I'm very, very, very pleased to have you on stage. How are you doing tonight?
Good evening. Good evening. I'm always happy to be here, Jordan. I so appreciate you for always inviting me.
Oh yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Especially with that huge news that you gave me. Big congratulations. We're here to celebrate you. We're here to give you your flowers on becoming the owner and the professor of the world's first college accredited dispatch course. How does that feel? How does that feel to hear that, to know that's something that you did?
It feels amazing. Yeah, it feels amazing. It's definitely a long time coming, and it was definitely a process. But I'm happy I stuck with it, and because there were some days I just said, you know
Right.
what. So it definitely feels amazing for it to be me, and for me to know that I definitely got to show up and show out, so that this can definitely be something ongoing, and something that we can spread to other instructors that want to participate.
Gotcha, gotcha. I know that we're going to get more into it, but at this point, the calm before the storm, do you feel like it's more excitement or do you feel like it's more stress?
50-50, definitely more stress, because it's not just Tawana Randall of Gold Star Logistics Group. We're trying to prove to FMCSA, prove to the TIA, and prove to the logistics, transportation and logistics industry as a whole, that dispatchers have a place, and we do have standards, and we don't mind regulations. So it's a lot of stress, because I'm kind of like, under a microscope.
Yeah, yeah, I can only imagine. And that's not even, that's from entities like several, not just one.
Mhm.
That's multiple. That's the FMCSA, that's the TIA, because the TIA, if y'all don't know, they're representing the broker's interest. And we'll talk about this too. But the whole point is there was a lot of illegal freight brokering going on,
Mhm.
and all the fingers were being pointed at dispatch services. So the TIA are definitely interested and involved with how something like this is going to play out. And then, not to mention, we actually have the school, Clayton State University. So shout out to them. Actually, shout out to the bros down there, the TE bros. It's been a while since I said what's up to y'all. I pray everything good. But anyways, yeah, so Clayton State themselves, want to make sure that this program, that this course is, raising the bar in the standard for their supply chain program, which, I've heard is very, very solid. So, you said that this has been a long, long, lengthy process. What would you consider long? Like, how long has this been in the works?
2 years.
What? Man,
2 years. It's been two
okay.
years. I pitched it. Um, a contact of mine put me in contact with. It was actually two universities at the time. One of them kind of fell off and said that they weren't interested. That it would never work. And I sparked a little bit more interest with Clayton State, and we started the process, and it was long.
2 years. No, they said it's a marathon, not a sprint. Man, I hear
Definitely.
you. I hear you. What do you feel like? I know that we can't go into in depth on all the points. But what would you say that you can speak on was kind of like the most grueling part, the part that was trying you the most, the things that you had to push through, but maybe even the things that you learned about yourself that you can take to the next hard situation.
Definitely a lot of paperwork was involved, a lot of meetings, a lot of redundant repeating myself. Meet with this person, then it's like, okay, you know what? We got so and so we want you to meet with, and I'm like, we just record it? I'm like saying the same thing over and over again. So like a lot of redundant information and just you know um proving myself in my course, people nitpicking at my course, um people that sometimes I felt like you're not even in this industry, so why are you nitpicking at my course? But they had some valid points and some valid things as far as like changing and things like that. So just pretty much being under a microscope. I won't say being judged, but kind of just them nitpicking and making. I guess they wanted to make sure that if we were going to put this on this type of platform, that they were really putting their name behind something that made sense.
Right, right. Well, man, I'm so happy that you stuck with it, and I'm happy that you saw that process and you saw value in just you like one of the things you said. They did have some points. Sometimes us as business owners, dispatchers, we can create content in such a way that we understand that given the way we say it, we're going to be able to connect the dots, and whoever's tuning in, they're going to be able to see what we're saying. But it's a whole entire profession of people who create schooling content, things for school. So I love the fact that you were able to get something from that.
Definitely, definitely. You definitely have to be someone that is open for criticism. Because you look at something, and I've been my course has been out now, and I've been teaching a little over 6 years. So you look at something that, of course, I've made changes and added and things like that. So you look at something that you've done, and I'm proud of it, and then you put it in front of someone else's hand, and they were like, "Oh no, not this," and "Oh no, definitely not this," and you need to do this, and I'm like, "Wait a minute now."
Right, right. Wow.
Everybody else liked it. But you have to be open to criticism, and you have to be open to suggestions and growth, definitely growth.
Oh, I hear you there. I hear you there. You said you've been the first time you offered your training course was 6 years ago. How it was 2023. So what, in 17?
Yeah, that's the first time
What?
I offered a course. Yep.
What? Man,
Mhm.
I mean, you're definitely an OG in the industry. I mean, for sure. I mean, we all know that in the golden age of trucking, which is right after COVID hit, and then consumerism hit because everybody got that money. You know what I mean? Those
Right.
stimulus checks. There were dispatch services popping up every single day, hundreds every single day, and
Right.
a lot were offering their own course.
Right.
Now, can you recall back in 2017, like what was it like? Can you describe what it was like administering your first training session? Like, were you nervous? Like, how did that go?
It was just basically me teaching someone that I wanted to that was gonna work with me. I never imagined or even did it for like sale because it was like $40. And it
Mm,
was just like, I've started I'm started inside this trucking industry, and I need someone to help me type thing. And then as I grew, and I probably say, as far as like taking off, it didn't really take off as far as like selling and other people wanting to purchase my course until 2019, which was like right before COVID. And so it was way different than the first time. And I mean, it was not as many chapters as it is now. It was not something that I would have put in front of Clay Estate right now. So
mm.
it's definitely been added to, changed, revamped, and it's a whole different course.
Oh, I hear you. I hear you. And I've been there. Like I said, as a dispatch company owner myself, I had to create content to train folks. And it started because my very first couple of hires, I had to pour all that energy out of me, live,
Right.
and then, right there in the spot, so that they can understand and learn about the industry and the importance of certain things, and
Absolutely.
to have content right there to be able to refer to made it a lot easier. But to have to give all that energy multiple times is hard. It's very hard.
Mhm.
So was like, did you have content ready, or was that you, having to pour your heart and soul into, taking things from your memory?
Yeah, initially, no, I didn't have a lot of content. I didn't know anything about Thinkific and things like that. So I didn't have a lot of content. I had a few slides, and then we worked a little bit on the load board, and then we kind of moved around a little bit. So it was no rhyme or reason to it. It wasn't organized. It wasn't. It was just, this is what I need you to do, and let's learn it.
Right.
It wasn't that much terminology in it. So as I grew, my course grew. So we're talking about maybe 4 or 5 slides back then versus now my course is over 14 chapters.
Right, man. Well, I bet it's jam packed with some great information, and at the height of your dispatching, how many vehicles did you get up to?
At the height.
Yeah, at the height, you know what I mean? Because just by the way of the industry right now, I know trucking companies going out of business left and right, and I hate to say it. I know they're going to be able to come back once the cycle, swings back upward. But I know it's not as many motor carriers out there. So when things were popping, 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 and everybody wanted to be in, what was the max number of trucks that you were dispatching for?
Me personally, or the company as a whole?
Your group, because we know, no, we got to have a team to do this.
Oh yeah. Oh, okay. So I was going to say, okay, so yeah, so at the height, I'd probably say was beginning of 2022, we were at 89.
Man, that's systems, that's structure, that's understanding how to develop and lead a team. And I'd imagine you put some of those gems in the course.
Oh, absolutely.
Man.
I mean, me, Zuri, and any anybody that actually knows me on this call. No, I'm not no gatekeeper. If I have it, and it's there to share, I'm here to share it. So yeah, it's in my course. I automate, 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 and delegate, delegate, delegate. So at the height of 2022, 89 trucks, 12 dispatchers, we were able to grow our business. Right now we're not there. We're probably a little under 50. But we were able to grow that business, as a team.
Right. Right. No, I hear you, ma'am. I definitely hear you there. So look, let me ask this. For you to say, you know what, I am going to put some roots down into the dispatching lane. I'm gonna teach these individuals. I have the game to teach. I have the confidence to teach these things. What did you have to live through in transportation, to have mastered the game enough to teach it to somebody adequately? Like, what did you have to grunt through to give you the understanding of all the things that a dispatcher needed to know?
I still don't think I've mastered it.
And I feel
um,
you. I feel
I,
you. It's moving
yeah, I
parts.
still don't think I've mastered it. I tell everybody you have to constantly be a student in this industry because of so many different changes, so many different ups and downs with the market and things like that. So I would never say I've mastered this industry, but you know, at the height of when sometimes we had more dispatchers than we had carriers because we were trying to figure out how to figure out the retention part. No disrespect to no carriers on here, but carriers have no loyalty. You can say you charge 8%, someone can say they charge 7.9%, and they're gonna move over to a different dispatcher. So you have to be able to add that value. So we had to grow from and learn about adding value and learn about retention and learn about what it is, what are we going to offer versus the same thing that we always see. I can negotiate your loads, I can find you this, I can fill out your paperwork. That's standard. Like, everybody just needs to take that off their flyers because that's standard. That's something we're supposed to be doing. So
Mhm.
we had to go through the ups and downs of, one day we have a carrier, one day we don't. One day it's his truck is down for maintenance, and one week the dispatchers are doing $1,200, the next week they're only doing 100. So there was a lot of like twists and turns and ups and downs until we figured out a plan, or we figured out a way to make it happen. And you know initially it was a lot of word of mouth, a lot of advertising, and it got down to the fact that it was more word of mouth, where a driver can go out and say, hey, check Gold Star Logistics out, check this, these are people that dispatch for me. So for me, that's more value for me, with having a driver do that versus me going out advertising and bringing you in. So we it was definitely a lot of turns in the market and the new rules and new the hours of service rules and the new regulations. Like, that's why I say you constantly learning. There's never an aspect of being a master in this business, because something gonna change, and that's gonna
Right.
make you change your business and make you change what you do.
Right. I agree. I agree
I hope
100.
that answered your question. That was a lot of talking.
I know it was perfect. It was perfect because I mean it's a lot that goes into it, and truly, once as a dispatcher, why I love dispatching is because it shows you the game. It allows you to see the game, take a step back, and you can see how supply chain works. But anybody in supply chain can realize that everything works together. So as soon as you might have, understood the ins and outs of dry van and reefer, then you're like, well, what about the first mile? What about port work? What about drayage? What about all the transloading that needs to happen and all these other aspects of supply chain that essentially it's all connected, so you can always be adding more things into your tool belt. So
Absolutely.
um yeah, no, and you're one person who I know for sure has that mindset because you're always you're always getting more training in other places. So,
Yes. I'm
yeah, no,
always trying to think of different things that we can do in this industry to stay relevant and to be a little different. Adding drayage and doing different things like that. So it's always about adding value and being able to sit down at the table, or it's on a Zoom with your carriers and say, hey, looking at your profitability and looking at your goals for the week and the month, what if we did this? What if we did this? You have to have those conversations, because if you're not having those conversations, they're having them with someone else, and they're not, you don't have that retention. So it's not just about going out there dispatching and getting 8% for the load. It's about figuring out how to retain that carrier and building a relationship with that carrier, versus letting him move on to somewhere else.
no, I hear you. I definitely hear you there. Um, I guess to transition to speak about your course, what are some of those major topics that we can expect to be in your course, your college accredited course?
um The first main one, which I did not have up until probably 6 months ago, was introduction into transportation. So before you even jump into dispatching, you have to understand transportation, and you have to understand, logistics and supply chain, understanding certain terminologies, understanding what the FMCSA is, what an MC is, what's the difference between a broker, a freight forwarder, or a dispatcher, understanding the introduction into transportation before you even get into the dispatching. So, from there we break down different aspects that you can get into the transportation industry. So we break down dispatching, brokerage, freight forwarders, uh all the different ways that you can get into the industry. Then we dive into dispatching, finding carriers, understanding the load board, basic terminology, a lot of scenarios, and breaking different things down. So it's 14 chapters of starting from the transportation industry. Then we talk about dispatching, and then we break down certain probably 5 or 6 of the main equipment types. And then from there, of course, there's a quiz. Just like my course, you can't get your certificate until you pass the quiz, and the course at Clayton State to be the same. You won't get your certificate or your credits until you pass the exam.
Gotcha. Okay. 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 No, that's true. I mean, jargon is a real thing. You will find yourself in a conversation after calling in on a load board and not know what in the world the broker is saying because of all those pieces that are so specific to
Right,
transportation and specific to just depending on which area, like drive-in, reefer, flatbed,
right,
drays, they all have their own language,
right.
and you have to know how those things really interrelate to one another. Okay, so we have the intro to transportation. All right, where do we go from there?
From the intro to transportation, and we talk about the roles that you can play in transportation, and that chapter goes into discussing the different roles in the transportation industry, not just dispatchers. I want you to also understand other roles. I want you to understand who these people that you're going to be talking to when you get on the phone with a broker, or if you get on the phone with a freight forwarder, or if you're talking to an actual shipper. Well, you shouldn't be. um so just going through the different roles, because again, just because you're learning how to be a dispatcher, you don't want to leave out those other aspects. When you're on the phone talking to people, you want to know who you're talking to. I had a young lady one time that called me. She had just taken my course, and she was dispatching for her first truck, and she said, she found the load. She thought the load was good, but she canceled the load because when she looked up his MC, it said FF in front of it. So we had to go in and explain to her. So that was one of the things that made me understand that I had to go in and explain some of these other roles, because if you don't understand the other people's roles that you're talking to, she canceled the load because she didn't think it was a good load. But needless to say, it was a load that was coming directly from a freight forwarder versus a broker. So I put that chapter in there because I felt like we need to understand the roles and the people that we're talking to in order for us to be efficient dispatchers.
Right, right, right. Now, very important stuff. I don't want to make this call 35 minutes because I will retweet and say, what, I appreciate that because it's so important. This stuff is so relevant,
Hmm.
and it has to be second nature when you're in the flow of things, to make sure that you're not missing out on any opportunities or you're not wasting your own time.
Correct.
So. Okay, okay. So then we talking about those folks, and let's give the rundown all the way through because, like I said, I will comment on every one of these chapters.
From there, we go into understanding your carrier, understanding owner operators, and understanding owner operators and the type of carrier that you'll be dispatching for.
Uh huh.
Understanding the units, different pieces of equipment. We dive deep into the flatbeds because a lot of times people just call them all flatbeds. And, I try to explain to people they're not all flatbeds. You definitely
Mm-hmm.
to look at some of these units that you're dispatching for and stop calling them flatbeds.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit. You got the standard flatbed, and
Mhm.
then you got what?
So from the standard flatbed, you have, well, your standard flatbed that you pull on a regular tractor. Then you have your low boys. Then you have a step deck. Then you have a hot shot. And then oh gosh, of course your hot shots are going to be goosenecks. Hot shots can be broken down into CDL and non-CDL, with a lot of restrictions on the non-CDL. And then of course, so what did I say? Tilt deck, hot shots, your standard flatbed, your step decks, your RGNs.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different ones, and people just look at them and be like, "Oh, they're all flatbed. It's a flatbed." And I'd be like, "Well, what type of flatbed is it?"
Right.
It's
It
a
makes a
flatbed,
huge
but not
difference.
just the flatbed.
Yeah, agreed, agreed. The funny thing is though, my dispatch services, I got a chance to dispatch a flatbed for all of, I don't know, a month when I was working for the corporation, the one that gave me the game that I
Mhm,
learned the dispatch game.
mhm,
So I never really got into the ins and outs, and I never accepted hot shots.
mhm.
I was a box truck guy when I first opened Atlanta Dispatch. And I was like, I'm only gonna do one of these, okay? It's just me,
Right,
it's a one man show. But I appreciate you for going into that because it's so true. It's so important. And if you're gonna be on that side, you can't be slipping. You gotta know it. You gotta know it.
right.
So
Yeah, and definitely hot shots are one of those. It's a niche for dispatchers. So if it's gonna be your niche, and that's one of the chapters we talk about too. What is your niche? You never want to get into the industry saying I'm just gonna dispatch for whatever vehicle come my way. You want to, dispatch for a certain type of vehicles and stick with that, and make that your niche, make that your expertise. So if it's gonna be flatbeds, which is a good niche to have, understand you can't send a step deck to do a low boy's job. You can't send a sidekick or a RGN in, or you can't tell the driver, your broker, that I'm sending you a flatbed and it's a hot shot. So if that's going to be your niche, then understand each individual types of flatbeds before you say that you're a flatbed expert.
right, right, right. Agreed, agreed. All right. So then we got equipment types, and then I think. All right, now go ahead.
From equipment types, we go into what is after equipment. After equipment, we talk about brokers. We talk about, then we go into factoring, and different types of payments, whether it's an EFT, factoring, a net 30, net 60 type thing. We have a long two different chapters. What is a load board before you head to a load board, and what are we doing when we get to the load board? That's like 3 or 4 different chapters, I believe.
Yeah.
Um, then we break down a few of the major equipments: dry vans, reefers, box trucks, flatbeds. God, I feel like I'm missing something.
You said a lot.
But yeah, that's I think I said most of them.
Okay, cool, cool, cool. Well, I love to hear it. I know it's going to be well received, and we kind of mentioned this, but well, let me ask you this ahead of this: why is this course not just important for dispatchers, but for the industry as a whole? And I know that's a lot of pressure and a lot of weight to put on your shoulders, but just imagine it's not you for a second and say this being a college accredited dispatch course, what does that mean for the industry?
It means that I want to be able to say jury teaches a course too. Break this too, or Laura can come in and teach this course too. It means that, getting in front of this type of being on this type of platform, and having those people in the room listening and watching my course, and they understanding finally what a dispatcher actually does, and that there is a huge difference between a dispatcher and a broker. Getting that understanding out there, and hoping, because I'm definitely one of those ones who are all for the regulations, hoping we get some standard regulations where we have, we put that respect on our name as dispatchers. So it is a microscope, and I'll take that, and hopefully I don't screw it up. But it
Yeah.
definitely means that it don't have to always be me, because hell, I'm 50. I don't want to do it all the time.
I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. And I appreciate you.
Somebody needs to come behind me and take it and run with it, and of course do it justice. But yeah, that's what it means. It's like a gift and a curse, I say, because unfortunately it is me, and I can't screw it up.
Right. That's true. That's true. I mean, but I don't think that, you're in a spot with all the game that you've gotten and all the, resources that you have to screw it up. I think that you definitely have been somebody that's given so much back into the industry, that I'm pretty sure this is a solid situation. And I'm happy, to even, well, I'm honored to even be mentioned in that, to be one of those folks who could be up to help push this, because it is near and dear. This is definitely something that's allowed me to grow in the profession. So I'm always happy. And just to give a little background, we mentioned this earlier about those regulations, and all those things that the TIA was saying to the FMCSA about all of those illegal brokerage activities. And, back in November of 2022, the FMCSA, they released their long-awaited ruling
Mhm.
on independent dispatch agencies. Basically, like I said, their feet was being held to the fire because of the unlicensed brokerage activity.
Mhm.
And the FMCSA came back with those guidelines, not to, and that's not to be confused with regulations. These are
Right,
only guidelines right now.
right, because it's
Um,
not set in stone as of yet.
right. They did say, hey, you hit one of these up, you going,
You will
some
get a fine.
$10,000,
Right, right.
each one. So they did come back and say that. But the guidelines themselves, they had 9 activities that were sanctioned for dispatchers to partake in, and they had 6 activities that were specifically stated needing to have a brokerage authority to partake in those. And I'm just going to read through them real quick
Mhm.
just to refresh everybody. But all right, so the sanction activities, it's 9 of them. All right, the dispatch service has to have a written legal contractual relationship with the motor carrier that clearly reflects the motor carrier is appointing the dispatch service as a licensed agent for the motor carrier. This is often a long-term contractual relationship. Okay, number two, and I'm just gonna. How do you want to do this? Because I mean, we could talk about each one,
Go
or
ahead.
I'm really just saying this for references so people can know what we're talking about.
Right.
Okay, well, yeah. Number two is the written legal contract specifies the insurance and liability responsibilities of the dispatch service and motor carrier. The dispatch service must also meet all state licensing requirements. Number three, the dispatch service goes through a broker to arrange for the transportation of shipments for the motor carrier. The dispatch service may not seek or solicit shippers for freight. Number
Mhm.
four, the dispatch service does not provide billing nor accept compensation from the broker, 3PL, or factoring company, but instead receives compensation from the motor carrier based on the predetermined written legal contractual agreement. Number five, the dispatch service is not an intermediary or involved in the financial transaction between broker and motor carrier. Number six, the dispatch service is an IRS 1099 recipient from the motor carrier or a W-2 employee of the motor carrier as specified in the written legal contract agreement. Number seven, the dispatch service discloses that they are a dispatch service operating under the authority of a specific motor carrier, and the shipment is arranged for that motor carrier only. Number eight, the dispatch service does not subsequently assign or arrange for the load to be carried, moved by another motor carrier. And finally, number nine, a dispatch service does not provide their services for a motor carrier unless that motor carrier specifically appointed the dispatch service as their agent in accordance with the aforementioned requirements. Okay. So,
Mhm.
so those are the 9 things that has to, if we're operating within those, dispatch services have, some flexibility. They have some wiggle room.
Right.
And, in my mind, most dispatch or most dispatch services that are structured for growth and longevity, they are already
Are
doing the
doing
majority of these.
correct.
Right, right. Let me ask this though. I wanted to read through these bad boys to see if you had any particular ones that maybe, you'd be fine if they got stricken out. Like if they weren't in there in the regulation before it went, official.
At this point, I think I'm good.
Okay,
I
okay.
think
Well,
I'm good because I've seen so much of what number was it? The dispatch service receiving compensation part. I've seen so much of that. I've had so many times where when you ask the carrier like, "Why are you leaving such dispatcher?" Well, I'm still waiting on her to pay me, and I'm like, "Well, why is the dispatcher paying you?" So I've seen it, and loving that one, loving the clarification about all the posts you always see about about dedicated. I can get you dedicated freight. So it's sometimes it's about the wording. It's about the wording, and it's about how we're putting it out there. But I'm 1,000% with all of these, and I just wish they just go ahead and give us MC numbers and just get this thing popping.
hey, hey, hey. I feel you. I feel you. I feel you. Look, I ain't gonna lie to you. Is I like the majority of them. I
Hmm.
like the majority of them. I
Hmm.
do feel um I do feel as though, maybe
What you want?
maybe if I have a pre-relationship with a shipper or something, I don't know. What
I
happens?
get it. I get it. But again, it's all in the wording. It's all in the wording.
Right.
It's all about because I've never seen you like post and say something like, "Oh, I can get you dedicated freight. I have such and such such." It's all about how you word it and how you handle your business.
True.
Because it's a misconception that if you posting that you can get me dedicated freight, that you're telling me that it's not coming from a broker, it's coming directly from a shipper or whatever the case may be. And at the same time, you have to understand that this all has to be done under that person's MC number. It can't be done under an MC number that you have because you think it's older, and you can utilize this MC, and you want this guy to run under this MC so that you can get him this freight. So like all the details need to be laid out for this carrier. So what you're saying is true. We all have 'em. I definitely have them. Those relationships that I have blood, sweat, and tears in. Like I was devastated when one of my contacts left, and I'm like, wait a minute, who gonna be my new friend? So
Mm-hmm.
get it. But I think it's all about the wording and how you say it and how you handle it. Like it doesn't for me it doesn't need to be something that needs to be an IG post, you know. This is just a relationship that I've built and that I utilize for my clients.
Right, right, right. See, I hear you. It is all in the way that you word the situation. And yeah, that's a lot of things that I feel like a lot of the newer or inexperienced dispatch services were doing about claiming they can do blase blase, dedicated blah blah blah.
Hmm.
But if we're really thinking about it, um, some of those relationships are already there, and if you're doing everything else that it's saying, you're not touching the money first. I mean, everything is going through the agreement. They're the ones getting paid, and you're not and you already have the pre-existing relationship. It's a little different to me. So I think that's the only comment I would really say to,
Right.
everything that they had going on with that. Um so and I guess it would make sense for me to say the situations, the activities that the FMCSA said you definitely need a brokerage authority if you're going to do these six things. So number one, the
Hmm.
dispatch service interacts or negotiate a shipment directly or a shipment of freight directly with the shipper or a representative of the shipper. See, that's the issue. That part right there. All right.
Right.
Anyways, the dispatch
Right.
service accepts or takes compensation for a load from the broker or factoring company, or is involved in any part of the monetary transaction between any of those entities. I agree with that. Number three, the dispatch service arranges for a shipment of freight for a motor carrier with which there is no written legal contract with the motor carrier
Hmm.
that meets the aforementioned criteria. I agree with that.
Right.
Uh, the dispatch service accepts a shipment without a truck or carrier and then attempts to find a truck or carrier to get the shipment moved.
I
Uh,
hate that.
right. Yeah. No, see, that's something that puts a lot of nastiness on the name of a dispatcher
Hmm.
for doing things like that. So again, like we said, dispatch companies that are structured for growth, they don't do it. They don't do that. They don't have that type of tendency. They get the approval of that carrier before they accept the load, and they probably already built up rapport enough and understanding of that carrier's operation style that they know what they're going to accept anyway. So, my bad. I get a little passionate about this.
Oh, you ain't gotta tell me.
Right, right. Number five, the dispatch service is named party on the shipping contract. And number six, the dispatch service is soliciting to the open market of carriers for the purposes of transporting a freight shipment. So that right there, that last part is what you were mentioning.
Mhm.
Saying that you've never seen me offer to, that I can get somebody dedicated freight and
Right.
putting all that type of stuff. That's what that's speaking to, and I agree with that wholeheartedly. um Question for you, with all of these things coming into fruition, um let me ask this: will the course be able to address some of these things so that the dispatcher or the student, because they're not even dispatchers just yet, they're college kids, they're college kids, will they be informed and able to, be compliant in the eyes of the FMCSA if they started a business right afterwards?
So let me just say this is not all college kids. Most of the people that are signed up for my course now are not in college at all. They're just
Oh,
regular
okay.
Joes off the street. Anyone can take this course. Anybody. Like, if you already have a college degree, this is a continuing education course that anybody can take. As of right, to answer your question, as of right now, no. This is where I'm trying to figure out how to word it without being wrong. Um, without getting in trouble. This is where the direction uh may be going. This is where this is an option. So if they don't say, okay, we're gonna give them MC numbers, they'll say something like, okay, instead of giving them MC numbers, we require them to have some type of approved, that's the word, approved education. Did that
Mhm.
answer your question?
I
If
don't
if
know.
not, tell me the question again. Let me try it again.
Okay, all right. This is the question. I was like, I don't know. I was asking this because of because of those guidelines,
Right.
and just understanding the basics that, hey, up front, if you're an independent dispatch agency, you have to have your own dispatch carrier agreement so you can have that written document that
Correct.
gives you authorization and appoints you as, somebody that can do these things on the behalf of the carrier.
Correct.
And just those small things that were mentioned in the those guidelines. Are those things going to be highlighted in the course, to make sure that they go through the check marks?
Absolutely. Those were actually added into the course probably about 3 months ago.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to ask. I
Yeah.
mean, my bad.
I don't
Okay.
know where I got my answer from, but okay.
Yeah. My bad. Sometimes your boy be asking stuff differently than
you
I,
you
I
know
think
you
it
was you
myself.
threw that journalist talk on me, Jeremy. Just
Right. My
talk to
bad. My
me in
bad.
English.
My bad. My bad. Look. Okay. No, I feel you. And okay. So let me ask this. Um, you and like I said, I've gotten so much game from you, you know, and I've always been able to look to see what you had going on, and even the way you structure your organization, and say, let me see if that right there is something that I can implement, I can do, and for the most part, I want to say that I've had positive results. I wanted to ask you, is there anybody, or not anybody, is there any skill, advice, technique, or anything that you've gotten from another, quote unquote competitor, somebody who also had a dispatch company, that you feel like was some real sound advice or some good game that you've actually implemented?
Um, from a dispatch company.
Well, I don't want to limit it to a dispatch company. Anybody.
Yeah, so in yeah, in business, especially within the past two years, I've automated a lot. Before I was spending a lot of time doing invoices and a lot of time, doing paperwork and things like that. I had to figure out one how I could step out of the dispatch game, and more so in my coaching um side, my coaching hat that I am now. So in order for me to do that, I had to implement different things. I learned from several different businesses about different CRMs and different programs, and it took some finance to put into it, but at the same time it was worth a penny, because these programs, these solutions, my virtual assistant, my regular assistant that's here, and implementing 17 hats. I've used 17 hats now for 2 years, and I absolutely love it. I use QuickBooks on a daily basis. So different things like that I've gotten from several different business partners and mentors, where I wanted to value my time more than putting my whole time into the business. So I had to figure out how to do that. So I take from here and I take from there, and I'll tell somebody, like, I'm gonna use that. To use that, or what do you use, or who did that for you? I'm a big advocate. I don't mind asking. It's up to you. You're gonna tell me or not. But if I see something and it looks like it's gonna make sense for me in business wise, I'm definitely stealing it.
I love it.
So definitely stole a lot from Myron. Myron Piggy, he helped me to implement a lot as far as my automation. Just there's so many people to name. Shay has been a amazing person for me as far as implementing different things with our mentorship program, and implementing different things as far as streamlining and things like that. So I take from here, I take from there, and I make what I have now. And it's still, to me, not where it needs to be. But I still got time before
Yeah.
I retire and give it away to somebody else.
No, I hear you. I hear you. Okay, well, no, I definitely hear you there. And how far? Where? If you retire out of this situation, do you think that you would step down from your role within the Atlanta Black Chambers? Because I really like the direction that that organization is going, especially the supply chain, transportation and logistics portion of the Atlanta Black Chambers, and I bet a lot of that is owed to the impact that you're making. So, what do you think? You're still gonna be in that, right?
Yeah, actually, to be honest with you, I would be more on that side, because our mission with that committee is to go out there and get the people to come, so that people can hear stuff from the horse's mouth, so people can hear. We're still working on some solidifying some dates for the FMCSA to come out, a representative from the TIA. So we have to get these people in front of the little people that make up the transportation industry. So that's our goal, for me to go out there and network and talk to these people, and let them know who we are, and that this is our organization, and that we need to hear from you. We need you to tell us what's going on. We got somebody from the port coming in soon. So, drayage is a way right now. So, and people want to know what's going on with the port, what's going on with chassis and things like that. So, we've secured a representative to come in from the port. So I would probably do more of that. I would definitely do more of teaching. I'm actually waiting on some approvals now for a course that I've been for my same course, but actually for my clearance. If the clearance, this is volunteering me to go inside of prison. But
Yeah.
I've taught my course for women that are coming out of prison, to give them a new aspect and something new to do outside of what they were doing. So different things like that. I just don't want to. I want to turn over the dispatch portion and eventually the coaching portion to someone else, so that I can be more inside my community.
Oh, I hear you. Oh, that's beautiful. And, I pray I can help you in whatever way I can, be of assistance. But that's it. I'm happy that I was able to bring you back onto the platform to highlight this very, 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 amazing accomplishment. The fact that you persevered through 2 years of just paperwork and redundancy and having to repeat yourself and a lot of critique to finally get here where the course is approved, it's college accredited, it's the first,
Yes.
and
I
I'm
hope it's
just
the
very
first.
happy.
I've been looking and I've been saying that, so I hope I ain't lying. Somebody gonna come and fact check me soon.
No, no, it's the first. It's the first. Okay, we just gonna
We
own
just gonna
that.
stick with that, right?
Yeah, no, we got to. But yeah, no, I'm just very, very appreciative of you sharing your time with me. And was there anything that you wanted to say before we closed out tonight's room?
No, man, you pretty much covered it. They know how to find me, Go Logistics on IG. Other than that, whatever you guys are out there doing, whether it's your business, whether it's something that, that you're trying to do, persistence and patience is the
Hmm.
key. But don't give up.
Don't give up. Well, I will definitely take that, madam. Well, look, until our next in person here in the Atlanta area, again,
Don't
I
come.
really appreciate you. And everybody, definitely remember to tune in on Monday mornings at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time as we partner up with Freightways Sonar Team. We've been doing Mondays every Monday for like the last 2 years, letting our carriers know where they should position their trucks to take advantage of the market. And as of the last couple months, we've been inviting various freight brokerages to join us to also highlight their high volume opportunities so that our carrier base is not only getting the analytics, but we're pointing them directly to the opportunities. So tune in Monday mornings here on the Transportation and Logistics Clubhouse. And yeah, that's it. Tawana, thank you for your time. You have a blessed evening.
Thank you, Jerry. I appreciate you.
Anytime. All
All
right.
right.